Welcome back. Today we're discussing buying a house in Canada and specifically the mistakes not to make if you're going to go down that road this year. But before we get into it, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And don't forget about our race to 25,000 subscribers, where one lucky subscriber is going to win $5,000 just for subscribing to this channel. It's free, it's easy, it's definitely worth it, but you have to hit that subscribe button to win. The definitive guide on how to manage your credit. Product, penalty, price, in that order. It's never been more important to get your mortgage right. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's discuss mistakes not to make when buying a house in Canada. And this one's important because obviously the landscape of real estate in Canada has changed this year. This is the first year in a long time, well, with the exception of the end of 2020, where we've had massive bidding wars, where we've had all sorts of confusion around whether or not you should write financing conditions and all sorts of things like that. So we're going to discuss those things today. I'm going to jump right into it. And we're going to start with not getting pre-approved. This is the number one mistake we see people make. And more specifically, what we're seeing is we're seeing people who start a pre-approval process, get partway through it, but don't provide any documents, don't provide their employment letters, their down payment documents, and basically get a partial pre-approval, but not a full pre-approval. And as a result, what ends up happening is they end up writing an offer, they jump the gun, they do it too soon, they don't get their taxes done, whatever it is, and they end up in a position where they've got this really short 5 to 7 day financing condition, and most of the work hasn't been done, and therefore they're really stretching and really fighting against the clock when it comes time to actually get their mortgage. So when you get pre-approved, it's not enough just to fill in an application and get an online pre-approval back. I know we have a calculator that's absolutely awesome. The link's in the description below. We obviously recommend you use that calculator to get some baseline numbers, but the pre-approval or the pre-qualification that comes off of that just isn't as good as a full one where you've sent all your documents to your lender or your mortgage broker and really dialed things in. So you want to make sure you get that full pre-approval done, and that is obviously your very first step when it comes to purchasing a property. Now, the second mistake we see people making is writing condition-free offers. And yes, this goes along with the getting pre-approved piece, but let me tell you this. No matter what your realtor tells you, do not write a condition-free offer unless you've spoken to your mortgage person and your mortgage person has explicitly stated that it is okay. Because here's the deal. Your realtor may advise you that in order to secure a specific property, you're going to need to write a condition-free offer. But at the same time, they're also going to get you to sign a form that advises you against writing a condition-free offer or a financing condition-free offer. And that pretty much eliminates all of their liability, which puts it on you in order to make sure that you can secure a mortgage. Now, most mortgage brokers, most banks, they aren't going to advise you to write a condition-free offer unless they know that you 100% have a backup plan or that you are more than well qualified and that the property is going to be reasonably approved by the lender and the insurer, because that's one of the biggest issues we see is properties that don't get approved. So if you're going to write a condition-free offer, you need to talk to your mortgage people and you need to show them the exact property that you're going to buy so that they know that there's a high likelihood you're going to get approved. Now, that being said, in every single market in Canada where we have had realtors advise clients to write condition-free offers, we have seen offers get accepted with conditions, and specifically with financing conditions. Just this last week, we had a Vancouver client told by their Vancouver realtor, hey, you need to write condition free. We went back and said, listen, we've seen a bunch of deals in Vancouver lately that have had conditions in them. Go ahead and try to write it with a condition, see what happens. And sure enough, 7 day financing condition, no problem, because guess what? When they were competing for that offer, the other buyers had also been advised not to write a condition-free offer, and therefore it came down to whichever offer was better from a price perspective. So we have seen in every single market, Vancouver, Toronto, conditioned offers get accepted. And quite honestly, if you are writing an offer on a property and you're in a situation where you are having to write condition-free, it's probably not the right property or the right timing for you. Now, that leads into our third item. Our third mistake is not getting caught up in bidding wars where you have to do things like pay way over the ask price, where you have to write condition-free offers, and where you put yourself at risk. And here's the big thing, is in every single market that goes into a crazy bidding war sort of market, it typically subsides within 3 to 6 months. And with pretty much every market in Canada right now, as of this recording, we are pretty much seeing that the craziness and the bidding wars have subsided and that people can purchase properties without getting into these crazy, crazy bidding wars. And what bidding wars do is they make it less about buying the right property and more about winning the bid. So you end up paying too much. You quite often end up buying not the right property from a long-term perspective, and it ends up just being an overall bad scenario. And yes, I get there's people out there saying, hey, you know what? You need to go and you need to bid and you got to get that property because prices are going to go up. What I can tell you is that in markets where bidding wars happen, what tends to happen is the market goes up, it hits a top, and then it comes back down a little bit to a normal market where you don't have to write bidding wars, or you don't have to get into bidding wars, and you can write a normal contract with a normal financing condition, so on and so forth. And we're seeing this very much across the country right now. We're getting back into normal, more reasonable markets. Fourth mistake we're seeing people make is focusing on rate. Now, I just had a great discussion with a client this morning. We were talking about variable versus fixed, and we were talking about discount mortgages versus full featured mortgages. And ultimately, what we decided on was a variable rate mortgage, but he had two options. He had a discount mortgage at 1.25%, or he had a full featured mortgage at 1.35%. Now, the full featured mortgage costs $5.77 more per week for him, which is about the price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks, especially if you're buying a venti with all the whip and all the stuff on it. And that difference in price basically gives him the flexibility to switch lenders when he goes to lock in. And what that means is if there's a rate special or a better rate elsewhere, he gets significantly more flexibility, and it ends up being a scenario where he's got all the negotiating power and all the flexibility when it comes time to lock in his mortgage. So he made a really great decision, chose the full featured rate instead of the discounted rate. Yeah, it's going to cost him $5.75. He's going to have to give up that cup of coffee or that cup of tea or that beer or that wine every single week, once a week. But you know what? He gets lots more options and lots more options to save down the road. So focusing on rate alone is the biggest mistake we see people make when they are getting a mortgage, because yes, rate is indicative of price, but it doesn't take into considerations things like penalties, the ability to switch lenders to save money, and all the costs that come along with the mortgage. And what we find is the clients who get the lowest rates often in the long term end up being the people who pay the most for their mortgage over the long term, because they lose the ability to make the big moves. They'll save them $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, like switching to a different lender when interest rates go down. Now 5, and this is the last mistake we see people make, and that is making purchasing decisions with short-term thinking. So what we see a lot of right now is people making panic decisions, going and buying in the suburbs because that's where everybody else is buying, or buying super quick and getting into bidding wars. By the way, if you are in a market where you have to get into a bidding war to get the house you want, just rent for 6 months and then go and buy a property. You're going to be a lot better off 6 months down the road not getting into one of those crazy stressful bidding wars. But really what we're seeing is we're seeing people buying properties that in theory they should be thinking about from a 10, 15, 25-year perspective. And instead they're thinking about the next 3-6 months and where they think prices will go and where they think interest rates will go. And that is the wrong way to do it. The right way to do it is to go through and consider the long term when you're making these decisions, and really think about where you want to live, the amenities that you want, and then find a way to buy the right property instead of the property that is best suited for you right now. And I can tell you unequivocally, if you put that long-term thinking into play, you are going to save a significant amount of money over the long term, because you're not going to have to do things like sell the property and pay a bunch of realtor fees because you bought the wrong house and you decided you want to live somewhere else or do something different or have a bigger house or a smaller house or so on and so forth. So when you are making your buying decisions in Canada in 2021, make sure you're making them with long-term thinking in mind. Make sure that you're getting your pre-approval. Make sure that you aren't writing condition-free offers without talking to your mortgage people first. Make sure that you are, not getting into bidding wars. Make sure that you are not focusing only on rate, but the overall borrowing costs of your mortgage. And again, last but not least, think with the long term in mind. Now, if you made it to the end of this video, you know that typically there is a small pitch for our homebuyer bootcamp at the end of this video. There's a link in the description below. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail today, but if you're in the process of getting buying a property or getting into the market, we have a course that's priced so low that you will easily get 10 to 50 times your money back. In fact, if you buy that course, you will get a special offer for Mortgage 360 that will get you guaranteed at least 10 times your money back. And other than that, if you've found this video useful, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. Don't forget about that race to 25,000 subscribers, and we'll see you on the very next one. Cheers.